We're back, people. What is up? Nice little stream going on today. Going over some potential trade rumors that have come out since yesterday about the Dolphins and, players that they might be shopping, players that other teams are calling about. Go over my thoughts into those. Also, just seeing basically what maybe value you can get. Like, I'm always open. I think pretty much always you can be open to any trade for a player. As anyone on Miami, I would be open for, but there's players I'm like, there's just no way you can actually get an offer that would be worth it. Like, the four names up there were Jaelan Phillips, Bradley Chubb, Achane, and Jaylen Waddle. And Waddle and Achane would be two of the last players I would trade on Miami. And the only way I would trade them is if you got some crazy offer. And I don't think the Dolphins will get any kind of crazy offer. I think those are more players other teams are calling about. It was Ricky who reported. Ricky, you talked about teams were asking about Chubb, Achane, and Waddle, and he said specifically that they were shopping Jaelan Phillips, which I found interesting because I thought, it was interesting to me they were shopping Phillips and not Chubb, but I think there's a decent chance both of them get traded. I'm very open to trading both Phillips and Chubb for many of reasons. I think the main reason is you have to start looking long term. I think Waddle and Achane are potential long-term players for you. I don't think Chubb's definitely not a long-term player for you. And then Phillips, the only way I would keep Phillips is if you felt pretty good that you were going to re-sign him in the offseason. Like you already had a contract kind of laid out and you felt pretty good that that's where it was going to go. But the risk with Phillips is he's coming off those two major injuries. You think he might get re-injured. You don't want to risk that. And then another thing is you want to play Chop more. And Chop and Phillips both play left side of the line, defensive line, outside linebacker spot, and that's where they're both just most comfortable. They both can play the other side and move around a little bit, but they both are more comfortable playing that left side, and I think that has helped limit Chop's opportunities. So getting Chop on the field more, I think, is a big bonus because his snaps have been way too limited. So hopefully that can turn around. But yeah, that's sort of the initial trade news. I think for me, Phillips and Chubb are just whoever offers the highest thing and trade them before the deadline. And I wondered, it is a little risky to stay patient because then, Phillips or Chubb could get hurt and then they lose all trade value. But also other teams, because the trade deadline's in about 3 weeks. If you wait, teams might get more desperate and up their trade offer. So it's a little bit of a give and take of do you wait it out and just hey, maybe more teams want to get into the thing? Because I did see a report earlier today that apparently an NFC exec said that the pass rusher trade market, it sounds like there's a supply and demand issue and there's more teams interested in buying than selling, which is actually a good thing for Miami. If you're interested in selling your edges and most teams are not interested in selling, then you have two of them that are potential pieces. That's not bad for you. And there's some teams out there I think could be traded. I think Phillips has more value just because he's a better player, but I think gauging the value of Phillips is a bit tough because of his injury history. Because Phillips has clearly played better than Chubb this season. He's clearly been a guy that's very disruptive, but he's coming off that injury history, and you don't know do teams, where would they take that risk? He's also younger, which helps. They do have to give him a contract though, and then there's Chubb, who I don't know what you would get. To me, I'm guessing Chubb is going to go for a 6th round pick. And I think that's fine. You're probably going to move on from him after this season. Might as well get a pick from him anyways. And then Phillips, I don't know. I could see Phillips getting a 4th, but he's tougher to gauge, I think, and guess. But maybe someone gets desperate. I think the Eagles could be interested in Chubb because the Eagles have Fangio. Chubb's best career seasons came with Fangio, and the Eagles need edge help. And then Phillips, I could see going to many different teams. But yeah, let me see what you guys say. I know it's very controversial and unpopular, but should the Dolphins explore trading Achane? His value is all-time high right now, and we all know the RB shelf life issue. That's why I understand at least listening to offers for Achane W. I'm not completely against it. I'm not it's not something I would probably do unless you got blown away. But I just don't see them getting a great offer for, like you said, a running back. But I think the value with Achane is once he starts to maybe, you start to get concerned with his shelf life, he is someone that can move to be a receiver later in his career, which could help extend his career. So I always think that's a nice, helpful thing to think of with Achane if they are kind of concerned with that. Waddle for sure is like, Waddle's probably the player I would trade the least, unless you got some crazy offer. I see every fan base being like, oh, the Giants, let's get Waddle for a second round pick. If the Dolphins trading for a second round pick, I think they're dumb, to be honest. Will Miami likely get a third Phillips as a comp pick? So here's the thing with comp picks is, one, they rarely work out like how you want it to, because if you look at the Dolphins comp pick this year, right? Last year it happened with Wilkins. They didn't get the comp pick they expected. They were supposed to get a third round pick for Wilkins, but he got injured and they never got that comp pick for Wilkins. This year they're supposed to get a fourth round pick for Holland. They might not get the fourth round pick for Holland because Deshaun Hand is on IR, so he might not meet the threshold. So basically Melifonwu or NWI for the Dolphins has to play like very little snaps for the Dolphins to get that fourth round comp pick. So the whole comp pick formula, and depending on like how many free agents you try to pick up, it makes it very risky to go with that strategy. Like, you are not guaranteed to get a third, and we don't even know what Phillips would get contract wise. He might not even get a contract worth being worth a third round pick, so it makes it very, very unpredictable, and also would be a third round pick. If you did get it, it would be a third round pick in 2027. And it's a very late third, so it's basically like an early fourth. Like, you'd be picking in the hundreds. So if you got a fourth round pick this year for Jaelan Phillips, I would take it, rather than risk getting a third a year down the line that you might not even actually never end up getting. But that's sort of the comp pick thing. It's very, very risky to go down that route because they don't always actually end up. Can you explain the dynamic of being sellers at the deadline with Greer's GM? What motivates the guy on the chopping block to sell and essentially wave the white flag when his seat is hot? I mean, yeah, that is another thing that you have to take into consideration. Is the seat hot? We don't know. Like, I think in most situations, McDaniels and Greer's seat would be very hot. But some of the reports we've seen and what Ross thinks, and we know like some of the behind the scenes stuff, maybe Ross thinks, Greer knows where the bodies are buried, just to, say that saying. Is he scared to fire them? So that means he probably feels pretty good. Or it could also mean maybe they think the next GM will be someone in-house and they're thinking of Greer moving on after the season. And Ross is like, hey, start selling. That's also another possibility. Like, he could make them do that. But, I mean, that feels less likely than the first scenario. But it's impossible to say not being in the building. If I can't talk second round, yeah. To me, the only way I'm even listening to Waddle is if the conversation starts with a first rounder. And then Achane. See, the thing with Achane is like, you're not going to get a first rounder for a running back. You're just not. Like, it'd be very shocking to me if someone offered a first rounder. I think at best you would get a second. And then to me, it's like, is that really worth it? And this is coming from someone that's like, you can get running backs anywhere. Like, I think you can go around and find running backs very easily. It's just Achane is a very unique running back that is very hard to find with that sort of receiving skill set. So I'm not really listening unless you get blown away for Achane and Waddle. I'm not listening. Now, Chubb and Phillips, I'm listening to because I don't think they will be part of the long-term answers. And I think you need to get Chubb on the field for sure, because Chubb not playing more than 30% of snaps is a crime this season for Miami. Another report today, if you guys know Tony Pauline, who's typically pretty poor when it comes to his reporting and sources of the Dolphins. I feel like I can't remember him being right. But he did say Tariq Woolen, the Seahawks corner, being a possibility being traded for Achane from Miami. That one is intriguing, but I think Woolen is not as good as people think, because his rookie year he was a Pro Bowler, but he's never played up to that level again since his rookie season. Like, there's a reason Seattle wants to move on from him. So that is something to keep in mind. Like, I'm not against trading for Tariq Woolen. It's just I don't think I would trade him for Achane, even though Woolen plays a more valuable position. Let the rookies cook. Yeah, I'm going to talk about the rookies in a second. Have you heard anything about Wright? Did Ollie officially take a spot, or is he still not healthy? I think he's healthy now, but I think him getting injured at the start of the year really hurt him, because if he was healthy at the start of the year, he at least would have gotten a chance. But I feel like now he hasn't really gotten a chance. He's also someone that I've seen talks about maybe being traded, So that's also an opportunity. So if they got a pick for Wright, I mean, that would suck that they never really gave him a chance to see if he, has what it takes. But I think the coaches talked about him today in one of the interviews. Like the special teams coach mentioned him having actually a pretty good special teams session. So maybe he'll get active these next 2 weeks. I think the reason they haven't been active is because like they barely given Ollie Gordon carries. So they haven't really felt the need to keep 3 running backs active. Plus, I think they see Malik Washington as a guy that can play running back if needed, like if the guys went down. So I think that's the reason he hasn't been active. Just special team stuff. Yeah. I hope they give him a shot. To me, like I'm okay with trading Jalen Wright, but I feel like you should at least give him a shot on the field, At least give him some carry, some touches, see if he can do anything with them, at least try to build some level of confidence. If they don't give him a shot this year, I feel like, it's a little bit of a wasted opportunity. What else did we got going on today? But yeah, those are the trades. Seems like teams are definitely calling about Waddle. I get why they would call, but like to me, Waddle is playing very good right now. I know he had that drop last week against the Chargers that led to a pick. It was unfortunate, but his drops have been down this year. He made a lot of tough catches in that Chargers game. And if you watch the film and you look at the advanced stats, so like this is like if you're an analytics person or you're a film person, like this marries together. Like Waddle, since Tyreek has been out, is playing like one of the best receivers in the league. Now it is a smaller sample size, but we know what Waddle is capable of. Like to me, it'd be really foolish. Like you're not going to. Like, to me, the only way you trade a player like Waddle is if you expect to lose him, like, next year. Like, you think he was going to go, then you trade him while you could. But to me, Waddle's on a pretty good contract. Like, his contract really doesn't start to elevate and be worth a lot until, like, a couple years down the line. So, you got Waddle on a good contract. It just doesn't make any sense to me. You're not going to, get a better player than Waddle out for whatever draft pick you get. And he's still young. So, yeah. And then Achane, I usually would be pretty pro trading a running back if you got great value for him, but I don't think so I think that says a lot that I wouldn't trade Achane because of how valuable he is to the team. And he's someone that can still be valuable for more years. You do have to pay him, though. If you didn't plan on paying him, then yeah, trade him. But I do think the Dolphins are probably planning on paying him down the line. Dolphins should be 100. Yeah, I agree. BPA for sure. The class is very underwhelming. I don't think it's underwhelming, but I just don't think there's like a for sure fire stud. But I do think there's like 3 to 4 guys I think could be good. And I do agree about Ty Simpson. If Ty Simpson continues that trajectory, I could see him being the first quarterback taken if he declared. If he continues the trajectory he's on and he declares, like he actually has some really good tape since his week 1 outing where he kind of struggled. Waddle cost us 2 first-round picks, too. Well, not necessarily, because you kind of also gained a first-round pick from getting Waddle. Because you traded back and then traded up, so I don't know if I would say he cost us 2 first-round picks, but it is tough to explain. Phil. Okay, I have to point this out, Phil. I'm sorry. Can I click on this? No, I can't. It's not showing up for some reason. My thing's gone. I'll have to figure that out later. He says, no more Alabama quarterbacks, please. I cannot stress this enough that this is one of the first thing you learn in Scouting 101. Scout the player, not the helmet. You can't just not draft a player because a player at the same position didn't work out before. He's a completely different person. He's also in a completely different system. So it's like there's no similarities at all, You just can't. This mindset is it doesn't work. It's one I have to push back on, unfortunately. But yeah, that's the sort of trade news. Would very much be against trading Waddle for sure. Waddle number 1, no thanks. There was actually a really good article by Kyle Krabs on A to Z Sports talking about why he wouldn't trade Waddle as well. I recommend going to read that. I would not seriously entertain that stuff. Phillips and Chubb for sure. And then if like anyone else too, like Like, really, the only players I'm not considering trading are the young players. Like, if someone offers like a late round pick for like, you know, a Rasul Douglas, because Douglas has been playing pretty solid, I would take that. Even though, you know, it might hurt your team this year, it's really not going to change that much. Your defense already sucks. I mean, we might get into that too. The defense has been rough. I just dislike Saban that much. Hey, well, Saban ain't coaching Simpson. Agree, except if the player is small or from small school. I mean, see, but there's exceptions. There's great players that are small, and there's great players that are from small schools. I think you just got to know what you're looking at. You know, it can be risky. I agree. Sometimes taking small school guys, but like, I love a small player. A small player that's a dog will always be some of my favorite players in the class. Like Jacob Parrish in last year's class was one of my favorite corners, and he has been one of the best rookies so far for Tampa Bay. And he was undersized, but he was an absolute dog. In this upcoming class, Mekhi Lemon at receiver for USC, a little bit undersized, but the dude's a dog. But yeah, definitely small school can be a little tricky, but there's definitely some really good small school guys. What else was there? I'll talk about the draft at the end. Let's go into some things. Okay, so talking about next, so this Browns game coming up. I actually felt pretty good about this game. Probably the best I felt since the Jets game going into one. I actually thought the Dolphins have a pretty decent chance. I still think they have a chance. But once I saw the weather report, I definitely didn't feel as good because apparently there's going to be 50 to 60 mile per hour winds. Then apparently there's like a 94% chance of rain. So like that kind of, I think, could potentially hurt Miami's chances in that game. Yeah. Speaking of undersized, also you can go to Antoine Winfield Jr. Antoine Winfield Jr. was my favorite he was my favorite player in that class, and he's also a beast for Tampa Bay. Some undersized DBs that are dogs, I love them. That's cool. I just always favor size in big school. Yeah. To me, I understand the school thing. Size thing, I actually favor just guys that play with a lot of toughness if they're small. I mean, not even necessarily small. I don't think they need to be big. Even like average size. Like I talk about it with receivers in my Kai Lemon video. A lot of the best receivers in the league right now are not that, like, they're pretty average size guys. Not even the greatest athletes. Like JSN, Emeka Egbuka. They're more technicians. I just love good football players. Some of my favorite players in every draft are small. Buda Baker. Yeah. Tame don't lie, measurables lie. That's true. Tez Johnson. Look at Tez Johnson. One of the smallest players ever. Literally ever. He weighed like 150 soaking wet. 5'8" or whatever he was. He just scored a long touchdown last week for Tampa Bay and has been having pretty good production. And he ran a 4.55. That's why I trust the film over the measurables, because his film was good as hell. And he played a lot faster than 4.55 on film. Lemon film was good too. Any overlap with Malik? Maybe a little bit, but I mean, I made that video just more so because I liked Lemon, not necessarily. I don't think the Dolphins would be in on Lemon, to be honest. Maybe there's a little bit overlap with Malik, but I think Lemon's a little more well-rounded as a receiver, while Malik's maybe a little more gadgety. But I think Lemon would be like a wide receiver 2 in the league right away, while I think Malik is more of a wide receiver 3. Did they play together? Did who play together? But yeah. There's some fun draft prospects. I talked about them in my video. If you guys haven't seen that, I made a draft video yesterday. Some other interesting notes. Anthony Weaver talked about Ethan Bonner and Najee Trader today. He said reps were earned throughout the week. That's why they played so much. He said Ethan was very close in training camp to potentially earning a starting spot. He said Ethan and Jack Jones will continue to compete. I would actually love if Bonner took over the starting spot for Jack Jones. I actually thought he showed some promise last week, but he played very limited snaps. And they were actually rotating drives. It's just the drives Jack Jones were in went a lot longer, and Ethan Bonner's drives were a lot of 3 and outs. So that's why Bonner played a lot less snaps. So I would like to see more of Bonner. Lemon and Malik, both USC, right? No, Malik was at Malik Washington was at Virginia. Falk or Bain? Bain. I do like Falk though too. I think from Auburn he can be pretty solid. But I think Bain's just a different level. Some other interesting thing. This was an interesting thing. So Jordan Colbert was active last week for the Dolphins. He had a nice special teams tackle. He's a good special teams player. Because he got elevated, I believe. He actually said today the Dolphins linebacker coach said they moved Jordan Colbert from safety to linebacker, which I think is very interesting. Definitely something I would keep an eye on if he actually ends up playing, because he played a little bit of linebacker in that last preseason game, if you guys remember. And I thought that was interesting because for me, Colbert was always just a special teams guy. Safety, I didn't see him playing safety really ever in the NFL. Like, I just didn't think he was built for it. But like, I think that athleticism would hold up better at linebacker, and he is a little bit bigger for a safety. So I think it would be interesting to at least try him out there. Something that I want to see, you know, obviously he would be an undersized linebacker, but like if he became like a dime linebacker for you and a special team stud as a UDFA, like that'd be a nice little find, you know? It is something that I think is intriguing because I don't think he ever would have played at safety. So I do like trying stuff out like that. Yeah. Malik started at Northwestern, then transferred to Virginia. Bonner had some good moments, and he's way more physical than Jack Jones. Well, I'll give Jack Jones definitely tries to be physical. He's honestly overly physical at times. He's just not the strongest. But yeah, Jack Jones is just a little unreliable, too undisciplined of a player that I think it's time to throw Bonner out there. Also, Storm Duck. I believe Storm Duck should be back and healthy, so I wouldn't mind seeing Duck out there too. Let's see what you got in the young guy. See if you have anything, because next year we'll get to the drafts, you know. But like next year, you're probably gonna have a need. You're gonna have needs pretty much everywhere: safety, corner, linebacker, D-line, edge, all defensive spots. You're gonna have a need. You're gonna have a need at least one wide receiver spot. You know, O-line will always continue to be a need. You know, you might need to take a quarterback. You know, you probably even want to add to the running back room. So tight end is going to be a need too. So like every position is going to be a need depending on what you add in free agency, you know. So, you know, that could change going into the draft. But I really think the draft could be anything at this point. Oh yeah, I did think that was interesting that they're at least trying that. I don't mind, like, hey, Colbert was never going to work at safety. Try him at linebacker. He at least showed some promise in preseason. Obviously, I mean, I wouldn't rely on him to actually start in a game, but I think it's at least something to talk about. Yeah, tight end for sure. Chris Kaufman made an interesting point today. He actually thinks the Cleveland Dolphins game is actually a pretty good matchup for Miami because the Dolphins' biggest problem defensively is first down, which I agree with. Their biggest problem is first down because they can never get in third and long situations because of how bad they are in first down. And then, but Cleveland statistically is like the worst first down offense in the NFL. So maybe this is a week the Dolphins defense can actually do something. Because if the Dolphins want to start winning games, the defense has to step up. They at least have to play average. If the defense can play average, the Dolphins probably would have won, you know, at least half of the games they lost if the defense was playing average. Even a little below average, but they're playing is like the worst. Will there be any splash signings for us this offseason, or will we? I don't know. I mean, to me, W, just looking at like the cap stuff, I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't really make any big splash signings until the next offseason, because I believe 2027 is when they get like a lot of, like that's when they start to have like look pretty good cap wise. But they did go very conservative this offseason, so maybe. I think it just really depends on what they do, like if they have a new coaching staff or not. Because if they have a new coaching staff, the new coaching staff might feel, in the new like GM and stuff, they might feel pretty comfortable. Like, hey, we're gonna have some time, so let's do this the right way. If McDaniel and Greer are still here, maybe they are like, hey, now we really gotta, we can't do what we did last year. Obviously, it didn't work. Then maybe they'll a little bit around, but who knows? Who knows what they're gonna do? But yeah, let's talk about the rookies actually, because I actually want to talk about this last game. Starting with Grant. I think this last game was a step in the right direction for Grant. It is still, I think he still has a long way to go, but I think this was a game where like there wasn't a hugely negative play like the Panthers game where he would get pushed back. I don't think he had a play like that throughout the game. He wasn't perfect or like crazy impactful, but he had a couple good, like really solid reps. He had that one nice sack. That was awesome to see. I think as a pass rusher, I feel better about him as a pass rusher than a run defender right now. And then I think as a run defender, he wasn't really getting pushed around as much. He held his own a little bit more. He wasn't like making crazy impact plays, but he wasn't like a detriment like he was more so in other weeks. So I think that is a good sign for Grant. The Chargers O-line is bad, so maybe that is something to keep in mind. But hopefully Grant can build off of this and kind of keep going in that right direction. But I would say at least a slight little incline for Grant from this game. Still a lot to go. Then let's go to Jonah. Jonah actually, I thought, played better in this game as well. I know he gave up that sack where he got absolutely destroyed, and he had another rep where he got pushed back. But I think outside of those two plays, and McDaniel said it himself, he played with his best technique yet, and I do agree. I still have a lot of concerns with Jonah, but I would say this was his best games in terms of technique, because outside of those two really bad reps, I thought he played with a lot more consistency than usual. So hopefully he can at least try to build off of that as well. Still a long way to go, I think, with those two, but I think there was at least some strides gained from what I saw in the film. It is only one game, but I think it's at least something to talk about. Yeah, then the rest of the rookies, I think Jaelan Phillips has still continued to be your best rookie. Fifth rounder. Guy's literally barely 21 years old. I think he's played at least, I think he's played a little bit of above expectations. Ollie Gordon, I still think needs to get more runs that fit his style because he hasn't get a lot of touches, but the times they have given him more, that inside stuff, he's still been pretty effective. He's had a lot of negative runs the last 2 weeks, trying to get him to the outside. That's not his game, and it hasn't worked. And mostly those plays have been more so on the O-line getting beat than himself. I still want to see more Trader. I know people will want Trader. I've seen people saying to bench Trader because he missed a tackle. And I understand that. This obviously was a bad play. But like the point of the season is getting these young guys valuable snaps. And I don't think Trader's been worse than like Ashton Davis or Melifonwu. Like Ashton Davis and Melifonwu have also missed plenty of tackles. I think at least Trader's playing hard and fast. Like if he's missing tackles, he at least is playing fast and missing tackles. Well, Davis and Melifonwu are like kind of playing slow and still missing tackles. Davis also gave up a touchdown last week. I don't mind Trader playing as many snaps as he has been because he at least looks comfortable out there from an instinct standpoint, but he's got to work on his breaking down to making tackles for sure. And those are only really the rookies playing right now. Marshall's on IR. He was struggling, but he was playing a new position. And then, Biggers really hasn't played, and obviously Ewers hasn't played, but it's kind of where we're at with the rookies. Hopefully they can get better, because that's kind of a big point for this season, focusing on the young guys too. Because we need to get Chop more snaps. Chop in his limited pass rush snaps, when they get him when they get Chop in good pass rush opportunities, he looks like a good pass rusher. It's just he's getting very few of those opportunities. It's very annoying. And then, offensively, I will say this about the offense. Considering the O-line play, 3 of your 5 O-line are playing poorly. The offense has actually been pretty good. I think McDaniel obviously has his warts as a head coach, but I think this is actually probably the best he's been as a play caller in a while. Now, I'm not saying he's been perfect, but I think he's been pretty good over these last handful of games. For the most part, there's been a few plays where I'm like, what are we doing, Mike? like the offense has actually been fairly competitive, especially comparing it to last season when the O-line was also really bad and you saw how bad the offense was with a bad O-line. This year's been a lot better, but man, the defense. I don't even know where to start with them or where they're at and what they're doing sometimes. It has been rough to watch. That performance. Like, I expected some growing pains, but I never expected it to be this bad, you know? And I don't even know like where you go to blame. It just feels like a full concoction where you can blame literally everyone, from players to coaches to the GM. But yeah. How do you choose the defense to make the right line of the ball? I really thought they'd focus more on tackling, not punching the ball out somewhat better the week before. Well, to be fair, it was better. It just was so bad in the Carolina game that it was better in the Chargers game. It just wasn't. They missed tackles in the Panthers game because they went for the punch outs. They missed tackles in the Chargers game because of poor angles and poor run fits mostly. Like, they didn't miss as many tackles in the Chargers games. It was just the end of the game is when the missed tackles shine, and that's when like people are obviously paying the most attention. It's the biggest play of the game, so then all the blame would go to Phillips and Trader for that play, even though, you know, you don't lose a play on one game because you can go back to other points in the game and, you know, point out, you know, this player made a mistake. It was really a team loss. Defensively, a team loss. I mean, the offense also didn't play their best game in that one. OMG, I finally call you live again. What's up, Flem? But yeah, that's sort of yeah. Trying to look at what people are saying on Twitter. Talking about, oh my god, I just saw a Waddle edit in of him in the Giants jersey. Like, keep dreaming. Interesting. Okay, yeah, Travis Wingfield pointed out in his last post that the shift to 12/22 personnel group has resulted in higher points per drive since Tyreek's absence. Yeah, that is somewhere that was somewhere I actually felt like the offense would still be just as good without Tyreek. Obviously, you're losing talent. Tyreek's an amazing talent, but I had a feeling the Dolphins would be a little more well-rounded of an offense with Waddle being the receiver one. I actually think if the Dolphins add a receiver next offseason, that's more of a compliment to Waddle. That's a good receiver too, like a good receiver 2 player, but is more of a compliment, different skill set. I think that would be a better thing for the offense rather than having both Waddle and Tyreek, because it does lead to a little bit of redundancy at times. Yeah, Twitter going crazy. Seahawks on Achane and Waddle and Giants. Yeah. I just don't see those two happening unless you got some crazy offer, which is doubtful. Getting Waddle 8+, yeah. Gotta get Waddle. Get Waddle those double-digit targets, man. This guy's legit. If there was one thing I was confident about in this team, it's that if Waddle got the opportunities, he was gonna play at a very high level. Like right now, like if you look at the best players on this team, like who the top 5 is, it's probably Achane, Waddle, Patrick Paul, and then it's like probably Brewer in the top 5. Like this year, just based on this year alone, Brewer's probably played top 5. And then the other one's either like, I don't know if it's anyone defensively. The only one it could be defensively is Jaelan Phillips. And Jaelan Phillips just had that, you know, the blunder at the end there. But it's either like Phillips, maybe Minka, maybe Tua. It might be Tua as well. That's just how poor, you know, you don't have like a easy top 5, you know, after even like 3. Oh, shout out David. Appreciate the super chat, my guy. Do you think Tua is playing scared because of the line, or is he just afraid of getting hurt? A lot of his bad throws come when his feet aren't set. I think there's definitely been a panic to Tua a little more this year. I think it's gone away more so in recent weeks, David. I think early on you definitely saw it. I think he was definitely a little bit afraid to get out there. I think he's settled in a little bit because he has gotten hit. I feel like he's been hit more this year than he has in years past. And he's actually stayed fairly healthy. Obviously, he's on the injury report, with the thumb and the hip thing. I think he's off it for the hip, so he hasn't had any major injuries. So I think he isn't panicking as much, but I do think the O-line has played into a little bit of him maybe getting happy feet because there has been a lot of reps where there's like quick pressure on him. And I think he feels like he's going to get that quick pressure on some situations where it doesn't happen just because like maybe the guy ends up re-anchoring. But I think maybe there's been a little bit of the O-line. It's been probably a combination of hurt and O-line. But I do think he's settled in more so as the season's gone on. Did you see the weather for this upcoming game? Oh, yes, I have, Flim. It's going to be... I really hope that's not the case because it's going to be a hard one to watch. Waddle's the best bargain contract in the league. Yeah, he's one of them. His contract... Like, I know he got that extension, but I don't think people realize his exact details of the contract because it was still just... It was an extension, but the first 2 years of that contract were still just his rookie deal in the fifth year option. So like he still wasn't getting paid that much. And like even next year, I believe it's like a pretty low cap hit. I don't have it pulled up, but I'm pretty sure next year it's very low. It's not a while until you get like a 30 mil cap hit, but once it gets to the 30 mil cap hit, the cap is going to raise so much, and by then you can restructure anyways if you really need to. Like out of all the new contracts they gave up, Waddle's was by far the most team friendly. Every time I go, it's everything about... I just keep seeing Giants fans really think they're getting Waddle. I feel like every time there is trade rumors, even when there's not a trade rumor involving Waddle, I always see other teams from fan base being like, we should get Waddle a part of the deal. I feel like people don't understand Waddle. Dude, that Browns-Dolphins game could be ugly if it really is 50 to 60 mile per hour winds. You see JSN? What about JSN? Did something happen with JSN? Or are you just talking about him as a player? But, I mean, shout out JSN as a player because that guy is on my fantasy team and killing it was easily one of my favorite picks I made this offseason. I had a good feeling about him, but man, he's exceeded. Do you think Waller's getting the playbook or the limited snaps are for rest/health reason? Tough seeing him with 4 touchdowns, 3 games and still limiting his targets. I think for Waller, it's just more of a... Like, you have to understand for, like, him being, like, as a personnel thing, when the Dolphins are in packages where you only have one tight end on the field, and it's a situation where, like, you can run the ball, you don't really want to have Waller on the field, because if you have Waller on the field, it kind of shows, like, your hand that you're probably passing the ball in those situations. So Waller's really only playing on the field, like, in obvious passing situations, or if you're out there in 12 personnel, which, Dolphins are running, but... I actually don't remember what his snap count was last game. I think it's gone, it's obviously been trending in the right direction. But I think, he maybe just wasn't getting exactly what he needed. I'm trying to find it. Let me pull up the thing. Yeah, if you guys don't know how to get here, I actually can show this. Let me go here. So this is called NFL GSIS, but you need like a username and password to get in. Let me see. What did Waller play in this game? There's the defense. Waller played a decent chunk. He played about 70% of the snaps, so like his snap percentage is up. He just wasn't getting the ball as much in this game. But yeah, if you guys want to see stuff like that, like the playtime percentage, it's NFLGSIS.com. And there's the username and password, and you just put media for both. Media, it can be all lowercase, I believe. Just media for both. That's the media's username and password to get in for that stuff. I know it's early, but have you started looking at draft prospects? I get a couple guys who've been watching from the start of the season. Yeah, Nick, I posted a draft video yesterday, my first one. I've also, it is just me talking about some top guys I think the Dolphins could be interested in, so I recommend checking that out. And then also, I've made 2 film breakdowns so far. They are currently members only, so like the draft film breakdowns will take a while to get out because it is still in season, so I will probably push them out pretty slowly. But if you do want to see like early access to those videos, you can join up as a member. But yeah, I did make a draft videos yesterday. I am definitely in starting draft season for sure. I'm down to take Caleb Downs. I know safety shouldn't go that early, but that kid is a monster, most likely the best player in college football. That is my kind of thought as well, W, because like it depends where you pick, and I'm not saying I do think position value sometimes gets a little overrated. It is a thing for sure, but sometimes like if Downs is easily the best player available, I'm so down to just take him because that's a way not to miss on the pick. I'd rather hit on a pick like Downs than maybe make a little more of a risky pick at a premium position, Because then I know Downs will most likely hit because he's such a good player. He also has some like versatility value. Like he can play some nickel for you. He can play down in the box. He can play on the back end. He's super smart. But yeah. Is it bad I still believe in McDaniel? I don't think so. I mean, I actually am not as down on McDaniel maybe as some other people, but I do understand the point of like, hey, if you continue on this path, you probably just move on because that's what it is. And we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. I think that's the toughest part. Like if behind the scenes, like the team has given up on McDaniel, then you move on. If they actually do still believe McDaniel, I do think McDaniel is one of the, like from a offensive standpoint, like play design, play calling, I do believe in him. The whole leader of men thing, I still think, that's very understandable if you think he's more of an offensive coordinator than a head coach, I saw an article saying Lions should trade Phillips. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of teams on the Phillips train. I think Chubb, people are thinking Eagles because they need edge and Fangio and all that. Hill. Hey, yeah, shout out Julian Hill. That's another player that deserves credit. Last week was the best he's looked as a receiver in his whole career, especially like after the catch. He was making some plays. He was running hard, and it wasn't like super. Like I mean, they were check downs, but they weren't like the behind the screen check downs. They were check downs like 5 yards down the field. Like definitely the best Julian Hill's looked. He's not playing great or anything, but I got to give him credit. What else was said? If we can, I'm saying Bane with us losing Chubb and Hill can be a great duo. Yeah, Bane does fit well with Chop. I think my only concern there is they both are more comfortable playing on the left side. And that was a problem for Miami this year with Phillips and Chop because you want to get Phillips and Chop on the field because they're your best pass rushers. But they're more comfortable both playing on the left side. I think if Bane could play on the right side, they would have a very good complementary skill set because Bane's a lot bigger and can really set an edge and play the run, and then both can, obviously get after it. And Bane's is just one of the best pure prospects. Like I think Bane and Downs are probably the 2 best prospects, and I think Bane has the highest likelihood of being taken first. That's not a QB because he plays a premium position. But yeah. I agree with that, W. It's just I believe in McDaniel, but I just feel like it's less likely to happen in Miami at this point, just because that's the nature of how things work, You out of your mind about McDaniel? He's a play designer. That's it. I mean, Peter, do you want to go out there and call the plays for McDaniel? I mean, I like McDaniel. I'm also okay. Moving on. Yeah, I think he was more versatile last year, W. Have you seen the Brandon Graham comps from the Eagles? I think that's a pretty decent comp. Because yeah, Bane is huge, but there's also like Trayvon Walker. Walker's taller, and Walker went first overall for the Jaguars. Walker's taller, but I believe like they're around the same weight. But yeah. I don't know. I think he translates pretty well because I think power for edges is what translates the nicest. Yeah, because Brandon Graham is 6'2", 265, and Bane's listed at 6'3", 270, 275. So that means they're probably pretty close. Did we put 3 edge guys in on that last drive? Yes, we did. Any idea how frequently we've done that? Not a ton. And I think the reason we haven't done it more, Phil, is because we can't get into those 3rd and longs. Like, the Dolphins are really struggling to get into 3rd and longs. I think if they got into more of those spots, like obvious pass situations, they would do that. Did you see Seahawks want Achane for Woolen plus picks? I saw Tony Pauline say that, yes. I don't really trust that report, to be honest. But yeah, I did see that. What are your thoughts on Arvell Reese? Arvell Reese, huge fan. Huge fan of Arvell Reese. I think he would be someone I would be super interested in because I think on defense, Dolphins need to get faster and more physical, and Arvell Reese is super fast and physical, and he can play off ball and he can play edge. I've seen him he's an off ball linebacker, but I've seen him bull rush offensive tackles and like put them on the ground. Like, that's how strong he is. I think he's a top 10 prospect for sure, at least from what I've seen so far. Yeah. Well, I think the thing that makes me feel good about Bane is he is that size and he looks pretty athletic for that size. If he didn't look as athletic, then I would have maybe some concerns being that size, but the fact that he already looks pretty athletic at that size makes me feel pretty solid about him. Yeah, 4 straight up. I mean, if they throw in a 7th because, maybe the Lions still want to have the same amount of picks or something like that, I mean, that's not a horrible thing. It's tough to gauge Phillips' value because of the injury history, Yeah. Weaver, I'm just like, I don't know what to think about Weaver because of how bad the defense has been this year. I don't think it's all on him, but it's like so hard to, Thoughts on Rodmore? I feel like I've had to watch Rodmore every year because I thought he was coming out. I haven't watched him this year, though, so I don't have too many thoughts at this point. Trading Phillips for 4th round pick is a fireable offense. I mean, I think they would do it. And I would be down to do it, to be honest, because I don't think they're going to keep him after this year. I really don't. Mendoza gives me Kirk Cousins vibes. There's some Cousins to his game. I think he's got a little more juice than Cousins in terms of like arm. I think he's also a bit bigger. Or taller, at least. But yeah. There's some fun draft prospects. I mentioned them in my video. Yeah, there's some good safeties too after downs. There's also Thieneman from Oregon, who I like. Very instinctive player. Some other people I still have to watch. I haven't watched. I mean, obviously, there's still so many prospects I need to watch. But I've watched a lot of like the top guys. There's some good top talent. I don't know if some of them would always go top 10 in maybe other drafts, but I think for sure some of them would, like Bane. I don't know where Downs will go. Downs for me is like, hey, if you end up picking in like the 12 range, which I think is possible, I think the Dolphins could end up having that. I think that's probably the high end, like higher pick that they would have rather than lower pick, because they could still end up like top 3 for sure. But I think the variance is still pretty high at this point in the season. But I think if they picked him more in like that 10 to 12 range, I think that's when Downs becomes more of a consideration, because at that point he's easily best player on the board. But he's a safety, and there's only been like one safety that's gotten top 10 in the past, like handful of years. Nick Carver. Yeah, he's a super developmental guy, though. He would take a while to get to receiver, too. Let's see. Any other players? I will say this about the receiver class. I think going into the year, the people were pretty. I think it was a pretty big consensus that the receiver class wasn't that good, but now everyone thinks the receiver class is quite good because everyone's elevated. Like Jordan Tyson's elevated, Denzel Boston, Mekhi Lemon, Carnell Tate's elevated. Then there are some other good players like Chris Brazel or from Tennessee, Chris Bell. There's some good receivers, so I wouldn't mind taking a receiver. Yeah, probably not first round. I'm saying like next year, depending on what you do in free agency, I think receiver could be a day 2 pick. I think that becomes a possibility, especially because I think Tyreek will be gone. But who knows? Would you say Caleb Downs better than Kyle from the Ravens or Stark from last year's draft? I think Caleb Downs is better than Starks. I think he is a similar level prospect to Kyle Hamilton. And Kyle Hamilton was definitely one of the best safety prospects. Definitely the best safety prospect I've seen in the last 5, 6, 7 years. I think Downs is near that level. And I wouldn't be... And the reason Hamilton only fell so far is 1, he's a safety, and 2, he ran slow. And I think Downs would probably actually test pretty well, so that could, I guess, raise him up. Yeah, the comp pick thing is super risky. We saw it last year. We missed out on the comp pick for Wilkins, and then this year we might miss out on the comp pick for Holland because of the Deshaun hand injury. Because now the Dolphins might be evened out, so they need to. That's why the Dolphins need to not play Melifonwu, because Melifonwu or NWI, they need one of them to not reach a certain play time threshold, and I think the best one for that is Melifonwu. I think they should, honestly, if Melifonwu is going to take away that 4th round pick, they should cut him. So hopefully the Dolphins are doing the math on that behind the scenes, because they need to have an understanding of that situation to keep that 4th round comp for Holland. Yeah, some interesting stuff. I'm going to start watching some more. I have plans for some breakdowns. So far, I've done Ruben Bain, Mekhi Lemon. Those are members only. As of right now, obviously they'll come in eventually. But then I plan on doing Arvell Reese, who we just talked about, and Kenyon Sadiq, the tight end from Oregon, very soon. There's a tight end every year that I really like. Kenyon Sadiq looks like he's going to be that guy for me this year. There's some other players too. Oscar Delp from Georgia. I like him a lot too. There's some good tight ends too. Dolphins have ignored tight end for far too long in the draft. Hopefully with a lot of pick next year, they finally take one, at least fairly early. But who knows? So much can change. At this point, you're kind of just talking about prospects as what they are, because that's really all you can talk about. It's really hard to speculate on what the Dolphins would need, because so much can change within this time. We don't even know who the coaching staff could be different. So that means scheme fits could be a completely different thing. Yeah. So definitely will be interesting. I'll still be here. I'll probably I haven't made any I only made 2 film breakdowns this week on the Dolphins because I didn't think people were as interested. It seemed like people kind of, didn't want to watch as much. But I'll probably make an Achane video tomorrow because I don't think I've made an Achane video all year, and I wanted to make one on Achane because he's been probably our best player. O-line top 5 picks. I understand why people would want that, but if the Dolphins actually did that, they took O-line with their first 5 picks, they would be a very bad team because they have so many spots. And then, to be fair, the O-line class, I don't think is very good. At least from what I've seen so far, I don't think the O-line class is that good. At least at the top of the class, the top of the draft. I don't know if any of them I think there's the Utah tackle and the Miami tackle, Other than that, I don't even know if those guys are worth top 10 picks right now, and it's still early. I think they're more run blockers. I wouldn't be mad with those guys. Obviously, we'll see. I need more film to fully formulate my opinions on those players. But man, and if you really think about it, if you really thought about it from what would that change for the Dolphins team? It would make the offense obviously better. But right now, the Dolphins desperately need defensive help because that's what they actually need to improve to get better as a team. Because the offense has actually been pretty competitive, even with bad offensive line play. Obviously, you still need to get O-line, but I don't think you can just hard focus O-line and completely ignore the other positions. I'm team BPA. If BPA ends up being O-line, go for it. I just have a hard time believing it would be for your first 5 picks. Because I had a comment yesterday about, I think someone said they would take O-line with every pick. Any guard prospects that stick out? Oh, yeah, what's the guy? I haven't watched many guards yet, so I don't have any crazy opinions. I think there's a guy from Iowa that's pretty solid. That he might even play tackle for them, but I think he's a guard. Also, I do think Francis from Miami might be a guard at the next level as well. I think teams might view him as a guard. Let me go. Interesting. Honestly, I'm looking at PFS list. They do not have many pure guards ranked very high. They have a Penn State guard as their 32nd. Their next guard from Notre Dame's at 61. Their next guard's at 117 from Texas A&M. Like, they only have 2 guards in the top 100, so that's very few. I mean, they could be wrong, but I'm just looking at their rankings. No, Dunker's a tackle, isn't he? Yeah, Dunker's a tackle from Iowa. I think, yeah, Mauigoa could be a guard. Most of these guys are tackles, though. Any thoughts on cutting Austin Jackson? Guy can't stay healthy for real. Cutting, I don't think really makes sense for them because I don't think they save money. I don't think the cap situation makes sense. Now, trying to get a guy that can start in replace of him, I think that makes sense, but I don't know. I think keeping him around would still make sense because I'd rather have him at least than someone who's just horrible. But yeah. No, I feel you, Lemony. I was more sort of talking about the comment I got yesterday because that guy was super for real. Oh yeah, Caden Proctor. Yeah, watch out for Caden Proctor because he has been pretty funny for Alabama. He's listed. Let me look what he's listed at. Because I don't even know how good he'll be as a tackle, but he's listed at 6'7", 366, and they have put him in at Wildcat QB. They've also given him toss plays. They have found the ways to get him the ball in short yardage, and it's really funny. Like what they did with Paul and T said. That is also a possibility, Noodle, that I think might not be bad. Draft a right tackle. And then what you could do is maybe they could give Jackson a shot at one of the guard spots if one of the guard spots isn't playing well. But also you could just start Jackson at right tackle. Once he inevitably gets hurt, the rookie comes in. That type of thing. I think that's a possibility. I think the only way I would be down to cut Jackson is if that actually would save cap, but I don't think it would because they restructured it last year. So. I hope we just hammer trenches again. I understand it's not a good start, but good teams have great trench work. Yeah, I'm not against hammering trenches at all. I think I'm just at the point the Dolphins have so many needs. Just take best player available. That will inevitably lead to you getting some trench players, but it will also allow you to be a little more well-rounded. If that ends up being just hey, best player available was full trenches, then hey, that works out in my mind. But if it ends up being a mix of trenches, skilled players, I think that's just the best thing for the team long term. Because they have so many spots. Yeah, that's not a bad shout, Nick. That's not a bad shout. The moving, Francis to, starting him at guard, move him to tackle if Jackson got hurt, that's a possibility. I'm not against it. There's some other names, I think Peter Woods is a top player in this class. He's a D tackle from Clemson. He'll probably go somewhere high. The linebacker class is good. The linebacker class is very good. Both Ohio State linebackers are very good. They got Styles and Arvell Reese, who I think Reese will go super high. There's also C.J. Allen from Georgia. People like Anthony Hill Jr. from Texas. The linebacker class is good, so I would love to take a linebacker in this class. Linebacker, tight end, safety. I think those are positions that are, typically not valued, but the Dolphins have kind of ignored those spots for too long, I think getting a stud linebacker next to Jordan Brooks would help him out immensely because I feel like he's had to do a lot and it's hurt him this year in his play. Ryder, tell him we don't need OTs because we have Borum. He's been better lately. It's our guards. Well, Borum has been better lately, but he's not a long-term fix, you know? I think, especially if you have a new, what's it called? And you also have to think, like, if you're looking at next year, you are expecting to have James Daniels back, right? Like, he's on a contract. I mean, I guess they could move on from him, but they are, I think, expecting James Daniels to be there. I think they're still committed to Jonah. So, like, I think right tackle could, by the end of this year, once we're looking at, they are, I think by the end of the year, might be thinking, like, hey, right tackle is the biggest need because of Jackson's injury history. And they think, you know, we'll get Daniels back. Hopefully Jonah develops. They could still take a guard, but I think they would be more likely to take a right tackle early in the draft than a guard early in the draft. Also, because I think they value guard more. Borum is the Kendall Lambs of Liam Eichenberg's. You know, I'll give Borum his credit. We've actually ran pretty successfully behind Borum. In the past 2 weeks, he hasn't been as bad in pass pro. Now, would I actually trust Borum as a full-time starter? Hell no. You know? Yeah, I would love to get Daniels and Jackson back. And just to see what the O-line would look like for, like, a few games with that starting five. I just want to actually see what they would look like. Because I feel like the offense might find new levels if they were actually fully healthy. But the O-line is not. Yeah, they'd only save $2 million if they cut Jackson this offseason. Yeah, so it's just not worth it, you know? The only thing it would do is, like, get you a roster spot, but what, it would get you a roster spot for probably a bad offensive tackle that's on the end of your roster, you know? Like, rather just keep Jackson. But yeah, that's where I'm at. Yeah, so I guess I didn't talk about corner. I'll mention corner real quick before I end it. Leave any questions. If you guys have any final questions, leave them to me. Because corner will obviously be in need, and I think this corner class is pretty solid, especially up top from what I've seen so far. Mansour Delane from LSU, Avion Terrell from Clemson. He's actually AJ Terrell's brother from the Falcons. He's a very good player. Jermod McCoy from Tennessee. He's had the injury, but he is a very good player. I don't know what he'll end up doing, but he's just a name to know for sure. But Delane is very good from LSU. Very, very good. Wouldn't be surprised if Delane goes top 10 in this class. Like, wouldn't be surprised at all, honestly. He's been one of the better prospects I've watched this season. Hey, this tweet from CK Parrott, if you guys know Chris Coppin from 3 yards per carry. He says that he thinks the weather being that bad would actually favor the Dolphins. I mean, I guess I could see that thought process. I'm not sure the weather being that bad would, but who knows? Maybe they get a win. You know, I'd like to see a win. Colton Hood. Yeah, Hood's another one too. There's a lot of good corners. Let me go to the. I like to go to some rankings. I go to look at PFF's rankings, not to see follow their rankings, but that's how I kind of go through an order to watch the draft class. I just need a list to look at. But yeah, they have McCoy at 10. They have Delane at 14. Terrell at 21. They have Hood at 30. So 2 Tennessee corners that high. AJ Harris from Penn State. They have Chris Johnson from San Diego State at 60. Interesting. I haven't watched him. Or Rivers from Duke. Oh, they have Keith Abney from Arizona State. He's a good player. I like him a lot. D'Angelo Pons from Indiana. Undersized corner, but he gives me Jacob Parrish vibes from last year. Could see him being that dog nickel in this class. Same with Xavier Scott from Illinois. Some dogs there. Yeah. I would hope if Cater's back next year that they give Marshall a shot on the outside, because I do still think Marshall is an outside corner. I don't mind cross-training him and trying to give him a nickel, but I do think he is a trying my corner to give me some Cam Smith PTSD. Hey, can't let it hold you back. We're gonna have to take the position early eventually, and it might be next year, but who knows? I think they could take safety, corner, linebacker, edge, D tackle, O line, tight end. QB, honestly, I think they could take any of those positions in the first. I wouldn't be surprised. They could even take receiver in the first in like a trade down. I wouldn't be surprised. I think the only position I'd be surprised is running back, and obviously special teams. But like, I think running back would be the only position I'd be like surprised they took early. But even then, I wouldn't be surprised if we took it in like day 2. Take a day 2 running back to give Achane more receiver reps and prolong his career. Wouldn't surprise me. Yeah. Yeah, you could do that with everything. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. I'll probably be streaming more this part of the season because unless the Dolphins are winning, it feels like the film breakdowns, are kind of getting redundant at this point. I'm still going to do the offense and defense and then maybe some players, but I don't feel the need to do as many player breakdowns. I might just start doing more individual player breakdowns and avoid the full-on team because it depends once they get like if they got like fully eliminated early. But I'm going to do some more streams so we can talk like this. But I'll still be doing film breakdowns. Probably just depends on the week, how it plays out, if there is actual good film to break down or not. He's still Hey, I'm not even going to read that. Bane, let's trade Jaelan Phillips Chubb soon. I think that's a possibility. If the Dolphins pick top 5, I think Bane is a very real possibility. Would not surprise me at all. Yeah. Okay. Later, guys. See you guys next time.